Have you ever wondered why it's so difficult to get from A to B, even though you're really motivated to perform the new behavior? Let's have a look at that. In order to learn more about this behavior and why it's so difficult to perform it, we need to look towards models. The first model that I will be covering is the theory of planned behavior. This model is known as TPB. When we look at psychological behaviors and why we don't perform them even though we want to, it's really important to look at models because they can be scientifically tested so you gather concrete evidence rather than basing them off of guesswork. The first model that I brought with me today is the theory of planned behavior. The theory of planned behavior is one of the most influential psychological behavioral models. The purpose of this is that it aims to explain or predict specific behaviors. When using this model, the behavior needs to be specific to a situation. It can't just be something that you just made up. It needs to be a concrete behavior in a concrete situation. The behavior also needs to be specific in terms of what to do, where to do it, and when to do it. In short, this model, Theory of Planned Behavior, TPB, is an expectancy value model. So, in other terms, what do I expect to get out of it if I perform the new behavior? The model focuses on three factors that have influential power over the intention to perform the said behavior. It's very important to highlight that the model explains intention better than the said behavior. When we look at the factors, it's very important to be very clear and concise about the meanings of each one, because if you have differentiating meanings, it will be difficult to understand them. If we look at attitude, which is the first factor in theory of planned behavior, attitude is determined by the individual's beliefs about the outcomes or attributes of performing the behavior. So, in short, behavioral beliefs. This is weighted by the evaluations of the outcomes or attributes, and they must be understood on a scale. So, in short, do I feel very negative about what I think will happen if I carry out the new behavior, or do I think it's going to be very positive? Think of it as a scale. It's not either or, it's on a scale from maybe 1 to 8, where you would put your mood on there. The second factor is subjective norm, and subjective norm depends on what do I think that other people are going to think about me performing the new behavior. These people, it's absolutely crucial that they have an influence in your life and that they mean something to you. If it's a stranger on the street and you don't really care about them, they're not going to have much influence or power over your subjective norm. But if it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, a family member, um, maybe a teacher you regard highly, in to what extent are you going to take into consideration their opinion about you doing the new behavior, and is that going to affect your intention to perform the behavior? Third factor is perceived control. Now, perceived control aims to explain what facilitators and what barriers do I perceive to be in the way or to help me closer to performing the new behavior? Fourth factor is intention to perform the behavior, and in itself, that is the factor that says how likely am I to carry out the new behavior. If we take these three factors into consideration and I just make an example with them, let's say that you would like to eat more vegetables, and your intention to perform the behavior is you're very likely to perform the behavior and you would really like to do so. Your attitude towards eating more vegetables is quite positive. You feel like you will get a lot of benefits, you will feel more fresh, get less sick, feel just an overall general happiness. You feel, in terms of subjective norm, you feel that your spouse would really enjoy eating a lot more vegetables as well, so they would support you and they think it's a good idea, and they cheer you on. Now, perceive control. If you feel like vegetables at your local grocery store cost a lot, then you might sense that as a barrier and you think, okay, well, money means a lot to me and I would really like to save up some money. So I feel like it's a barrier that the vegetables are costing that much. So here we have a negative sense of perceived control. Here you have a positive feeling towards that factor. And with your attitude as well, you have a positive feeling, and with your intention, you are very likely to do it. So, if you imagine it on a scale, let's say 100 and 0 or naught, as someone will call it, you could say that your attitude towards eating more greens really means a lot to you. So you land about at a 50, right? Subjective norm, let's say your spouse again, they think it's a really good idea, and while that means a lot, it's only a that's okay. It doesn't mean very much, but it's like 25. So now you're at a 75% score. This score doesn't really mean anything. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. So if the scale doesn't help you, feel free to skip it. Now, you have the perceived control here, and you really feel like that's hitting you quite hard. You feel like it really sucks that they cost a lot of money, and that's what would you call that? Maybe 25 points. You would give that 25% ich points. So that pushes you back to 50. So now you're at 50 out of 100, which means whilst you are quite motivated to perform the behavior, there's only a 50% chance that you will actually perform the behavior. In other words, rather than using the 50%, because again, the scale doesn't mean anything, it's just to illustrate a point, you will be kind of likely to perform the behavior, but the intention to behavior, is not always a straightforward line because there's the intention behavior gap, which can mean that even if you were at 100%, like you were really motivated, you were really likely to perform the behavior, you might still not do it. And that's not because you're lazy, it just means that it's difficult to do it. This model is quite simplistic, and as I explained before, it aims to explain and predict the carrying out of new behaviors, otherwise, the intent to carry out new behaviors. It doesn't aim to explain certain behaviors, it aims to explain the intention to perform the behavior. I hope this gave you a better idea of the psychological processes that are at stake when you are performing these said behaviors and the intention to perform the behavior and why it's not such a straight line from A to B. Next up, I'll go through the integrated behavioral model, which is a further development of the theory of planned behavior. So make sure that you understand the basics before moving on. And whatever you found useful from this video, make sure to just grab it and incorporate it into your own learning. And if some of it didn't make sense, you can write some questions down in the comments below, or for example, with the scale. If you understood it perfectly before, but the scale made you confused, skip it. It doesn't matter. Bye bye.